My name's Martin. Worked TA manager for Screwfix. Prior to that, worked at Wagamama and B&Q. But most important thing to know about me is that for the first time in 4 years, I go on holiday tomorrow. So if anyone's been to Malaysia and you got some tips for me, come and find me after. That'd be great. So what am I here to talk about today? So at the start of this year, Screwfix, we started to put together a plan of redefining our EVP and launching our employer brand. And we want to spend some time to understand how we can connect that to marketing. So one of the first activities that's really critical in this space is understanding the history of the company, where they're at the moment, and most importantly, the direction of travel. So what's the growth plan? How can we align that to where we are going forward? And I underline that point because if we're not aligned as TA professionals and employer brand people to where the company's going, the likelihood is we're going to need to revisit some of this work in 12 to 18 months, and it doesn't really have the longevity or the impact that we want to see. Now, a bit of a history about Screwfix. Some of you may know the brand as a consumer or be somewhat familiar with it. So Screwfix was incepted in 1979. The first 20 years of its history was very much a catalog-led trading business. So for those of you that might remember Next Directory before they had their shops, a similar kind of vibe. So you've got the small head office in Yeovil, there's a customer call center next to that, and essentially for 20 years, the marketing strategy was, can we get our catalogs in every trading van in the country? In the early 2000s, they went online and launched their digital offer in terms of the Screwfix Careers website, and then the stores came last, which is quite an important trajectory and quite unusual for a retailer for stores to be the final piece of the puzzle. So in 2005, they launched a pilot of 5 stores. Since 2005, those 5 have become 834. And in the last 5 to 7 years, has been one of the fastest growing retailers in the UK. So where that becomes part of a challenge for TA functions is we do 5,500 hires a year. The majority of that is in retail. Each year that becomes more challenging because once you get to 800 stores, we've tapped out London, Manchester, Liverpool, Leeds. And when I look at our new store location list now, they're in slightly more exotic locations. Combined with that, our head office is based in Yeovil, which is in Somerset. Has anyone been to Yeovil? I'm seeing some reviews. What was it like? Yeah, middle of nowhere. So it's not exactly a talent metropolis. So when we start receiving requests like we need world-class data scientists to come and have the new next revolution of how we interact with our customers, it becomes part of a challenge, and employer brand, of course, becomes part of that solution when it comes to engaging with talent and starting to build those talent pipelines. So one of the first things that we wanted to do is take a step back and have a look at what we've got at the moment. So when I look at the branding that we were using 5 years ago, it's hard to believe it was 5 years ago because it does look quite old-fashioned, I think. We spent some time analysing, going, okay, what do we like, what do we want to keep, and more importantly, what don't we like, and what do we feel isn't hitting the mark at the moment? And for me, when I look at some of the collateral now, I kind of feel that it's reasonably generic. It probably doesn't stand us out in the market. And one of the cool things about brand is that it's more important now than it ever has been through what people are looking for and the ways that companies are investing in this space. So we wanted to take a step back and redefine it, have something that stands out. And when we look at the way we've shot certain things and the way that we've captured certain content, it's quite clear that we've leveraged on very much the head office and the 5 or 6 stores around it. So we're not really telling the story and being very representative of our current workforce. So beyond looking at where we're at the moment, we did some research in partnership with our media agency 33 about where the market is at the moment. Now, the list of findings that came back from that aren't necessarily new. I'm sure they won't surprise anyone in this room. But the point that I want to emphasize is that these are things that are dialed up since 2019. These are things that are becoming ever more important. So Colleagues wanting a sense of purpose from work. I love that. Sustainability is a trend that we know has been leveling up over the last few years and is particularly prevalent with the younger generation. When it comes to work-life balance and flexibility, I'm willing to bet over the last few years, all of us have done some periods of working solely from home. We're probably now working in much more of a hybrid way. As a retailer, we work in fixed locations, right? So we know that that's where the work is. But what flexibility means to these people is, can we be creative with shift patterns? Can we get that security that stands us apart and offer flexibility to help work fit in with people's lives in a slightly different way? And when I mention safety at work, yes, I am talking about health and safety, but also security. We can see the direction of travel for the next 6 to 8 months. It's quite clear that some companies are going to have to make some tough decisions when it comes to people. When people are in the job market right now, they are wanting that stability. Can they see a future in that company? Is it a company they can trust? So, about 14 months ago, as a TA function, we got wind that marketing were going to do something different and look to relaunch their consumer marketing. And straight away, we wanted to be part of that conversation to understand why they were doing this, what the theory was, and is there a way to have some consistency. The reason that we wanted to do that is, quite simply, our marketing function have a much bigger budget than we do. They are going to reach a much bigger target, and there are millions of customers coming through their stores, every couple of weeks. People are familiar with the brand. How can we take that familiarity and then bring that into TA, so that when people are starting to interact with us as a talent brand, there's that level of, as I said, familiarity, that trust, and it starts to feel consistent moving through. So what the marketing team articulated to us around what it was that they wanted to do is celebrate our customers, to portray them in a slightly different light to what they saw our competitors doing, to show tradespeople as skilled individuals and how us as a brand can be part of helping them with their work. In terms of the tone and the language, it's short, sharp, confident, and that's reflected in the imagery as well. So we understand that from the marketing team. The next step we wanted to look at is our EVP pillars. Now, it's not our job as TA professionals to invent the EVP from scratch. It already exists. So it's our job to go out, understand what it is, have a look at everything from our reward function to our engagement score to spending time with our colleagues, understanding why they came to work from the brand, what it is they enjoy working here, and why it is they keep coming back day after day. And some of the things that came out of that loud and clear were helping people build a career that's right for them. So one of the positive things about being a company that is on a growth trajectory, I articulate we're opening a number of stores, so we open between 50 and 70 stores each year. That creates a lot of opportunities, and with that and our learning development function, we've got apprenticeship schemes, grad programs, development programs as well. And this is something that came across loud and clear as a huge part of colleague engagement, and we wanted to dial up in terms of our external messaging. Being ourselves, bringing out the best in us, I am of course referring to inclusion, and within Screwfix we have it's a company of 14,000 people, but within each individual store you're talking about teams of between 10 and 14 people. So there's these quite tight-knit teams and communities that really have that sense of belonging that we wanted to bring out. And feeling part of something bigger, even though most people do operate in very small teams, there is that confidence with the brand as a whole. And Screwfix being part of Kingfisher that owns B&Q and a number of other brands across Europe, there's that security that we feel we can offer. The next thing we did was conduct some audience testing and profiling. So understanding the candidates, how can we segment them, understand their behavior and communicate with them in an effective way. So this, I think, is a reasonably basic thing for anyone working in a marketing function. They invest a lot of time in understanding consumer behavior and how they can fit their marketing in around that. It's probably not quite so commonplace within TA. So we conducted this research and wanted to understand the groups that why people come to work for us, through people wanting to build a career, coming to work from the social aspect, and people looking to find work that fits in with their lives. We have a lot of students, we have a lot of people simply looking for part-time jobs as a side gig. Really helpful information in terms of how we communicate with that. And something that we've done since this launch is, when it comes to our quarterly review of our branding activity, we look back over the previous 3 months and we look forward to the next 3 and go, okay, in terms of the content, in terms of the messaging that we're putting out there, are we hitting all these 4 quadrants? Are we having consistency of messaging that is impactful for all these different types of people? So moving on to our new creative and what we wanted to achieve in terms of the look, feel, the tone, etc. We wanted it to feel bold. So one of the really cool things about employer brand is that it is more important than it ever has been before. Employer brand, EVP, this is language that wasn't even used 10 years ago. It's become gradual importance since then. And then in 2020, it feels like we're in a employee revolution at the moment, where it's expanded and people are looking for more from an employer. If I'm going to invest my time in, it's got to be something that means something to me and somewhere where I enjoy working. So what we wanted to do to leverage our consumer marketing is, replicate and build upon our look and feel. And where the marketing strategy was about celebrating our customers, we wanted to celebrate our colleagues, to place them front and center and tell their stories, make them the real heart of our campaigns. So this is even present in the photography style. So we've got the sharp focus on the individuals, they're front and center, they're staring down the barrel of the camera. You've got that blurred background really bringing the imagery to the fore. And when I look back at the previous collateral, for me, it really looked like you could almost see the photographer going 3, 2, 1, smile, right? And if we're going to be authentic, we want to have these people, feeling confident and being able to tell their stories in an authentic way. And I mention the stories quite a lot because whenever we're using this type of imagery, whether it's on our socials or our careers site, we are always telling their story as part of that. One of the things that I will call out when we're engaging with people to take part in it, we did take a step back and consider, do we want to cast our employees? Do we want to have actors? Do we want to have a hybrid of it? Because people do move on into other things, and that quickly becomes a conversation that's had internally. Now, in all honesty, it was quite a quick conversation. If the authenticity is at the heart of our brand and what it is that we want to portray, we've really got to get our people's stories across. And when it comes to selecting individuals and casting, I can't emphasize enough to have people that are really bought into what it is that we're trying to do. Don't cherry pick and hand select. These people really want to be part of it and understand what it is, because it might look easy taking pictures of people. It really isn't, in terms of capturing the look and feel that you really want. So we've got our primary imagery that is designed to hopefully be a little bit striking and a little bit different to what's out there at the moment. This is supplemented by our reportage or secondary imagery that's slightly warmer, bringing out the collaboration, the interaction that we've got within our colleagues, trying to get across that teamwork, and again, the focus that we've got on our customers. Customer being at the heart of everything that we do, and we really try to articulate throughout all the recruitment and selection process that whether you're working in our call centres, head office, in our stores, it's that focus on the customer that we really want to be a motivator for people. So the tone of voice, I go back to bold, confident and authentic. Hopefully that's present in the photography style that we've chosen, and we want it to be present in the wording that we use, the taglines that we select, and how we tell their stories. So I want to run through some examples of the type of imagery, the type of stories that we're telling, and how this is lining up with either our EVP pillars and our candidate segmentation. So we've got Montana here that speaks in her story about coming to work for the social aspect, the relationships that she's got with her colleagues in the store. We've got Caleb, who was a retail assistant in one of our stores in Ireland, has come over to the UK to be part of our grad program in the digital space. Neem, currently at university, we've been able to navigate her shift pattern around her university timetable and flex that up and down, both in and out of work time, pulling in to that customer segmentation element of the life supplementer, how we can be within that. We got Ashley, joined fresh from college, is already on our development program to move into her next role, pulling out that building a career that's right for you pillar that we spoke about at the start. Russell's been with us 12 years, started as a service assistant in store, has worked through every management level and is currently an area manager managing 20 people. The theme of his story, articulating that through the learning and the training and the support of your colleagues, we can break down some of those perceived barriers and help you move through that perceived ceiling. Fahy was out of work for 20 years when she raised a family, took a part-time job at Screwfix, has been here 12 years since. And she talks about the importance of the customer and the relationship that she's got with her regular customers in her store. And finally, Tom articulates the importance of customer data as part of his role and how that sits behind every decision at Screwfix. So I mentioned about aligning to our company vision and the direction of travel that we're going, digital and data. Look, everyone's a tech company now, right? So this is something that is very present in our brand and how we want to articulate that and get those messages across. Because one of the great things about Screwfix that is helpful is we are reasonably well known, 14,000 colleagues, 800 stores, etc., etc. The challenge is we're known as a retailer. So as a tech individual, why would you consider a role at Screwfix? That's work for the brand team and the recruitment team to do in terms of uncovering some of those bits. So we've got the imagery, we've got the stories, we've done the photo shoots. We also took part in framing a video that I would like to show you. It's always a bit of a gamble. Will this work, and will I be able to hear it? So if someone can nod if I press the next button and it starts playing.
Limits? We don't believe in them. Opportunity? We don't wait for it to knock. At Screwfix, we don't just champion change, but the people who make it. The disruptors, the innovators, the standard setters, and the go-getters. Because when we're free to be ourselves, we achieve more together. We coach, we collaborate, we analyze, we care. And if we face challenges, we rise to meet them, because there's always another way. And it's never too late to learn, to grow, to belong, to be part of something, to make more of yourself.
I've got to tell you, watching that video back now, I'm getting flashbacks of just how long it takes to edit a 60-second video. And I tell you what, if anyone in this room gets offered a job movie editing in Hollywood, just say no. It's honestly not worth it. But hopefully what did come across is some of the messaging that we've got and the consistency that we have in hopefully every part of this, in terms of the language that we're using, the messaging that we're trying to get across. So we've got our bits. We're now on to the activation part of it and how we bring this to life both externally and internally. So obviously you've got the careers website, the place that is going to get more traffic than even your social channels. We want this to be present, front and center, and make a statement. And really, when we look at the website as a whole, have all the imagery that we want, have all the look and feel to start to bring across that feeling. One of the other things that we launched as part of this website refresh, which is, I think you could probably just about see one of the tabs at the top of it, which is our Life at Screwfix page. So the Life at Screwfix page pulls content across various social platforms for people using the hashtag Life at Screwfix. So this is employee-generated content. This isn't just on the TA team coming up with new ideas and constantly farming out the message. This is authentic bits and pieces from our colleagues in our stores, in our head office, talking about what they're up to and showing what it's like to work at Screwfix. And this is so important. We've moved on such a long way from having a company careers website where you've got the statement from the CEO. We know it's not what people want, right? People probably aren't going to interact with the CEO. They want to hear from people that they're going to be working with and their colleagues that they're going to be working with on a day-to-day. So moving on to the internal launch and what we did is, as part of that, I think the first part is to build quite a big buzz about it. So, a lot of us have our careers websites, we've got our social channels, we need people to really sell this and bring it to life within the business. So we ran engagement sessions with every functional lead in head office, with every area manager in retail, helping to understand why we're doing this and why it's important for them to play their part in it. We've refreshed our learning platform so that when colleagues start interacting with the talent brand, and then they then come in, it's the same look and feel when they start their induction, their onboarding. When they join development programs, it's the same look and feel, so that it starts to feel that level of familiarity as they move their way through the company. We've of course updated our recruitment and brand collaterals that are present in all of head office and our stores and our business installation centres as well. With the external activation, I'll show some examples of how this works in a second, but we use programmatic digital display advertising to target that. We started using audio advertising through Spotify for the first time to really segment slightly different data. One of the challenges that I've not touched on that is present at Screwfix is our customer base is around about 80% male. So that creates a potential myth that Screwfix is quite a male-orientated company to work for, which 100% isn't the reality. In terms of stats, we hover around 46-54 in terms of our gender split. So there's some work for the brand team to do in terms of articulating that and getting that message across. We've got paid social campaigns that are running across the socials, and of course the digital and data bits and pieces that I mentioned before. This is a key part of our growth strategy and how we can leverage that to help people start understanding and getting into our talent programs. So when I mentioned about the programmatic advertising, depending on where on a website you go, you'll be fed this kind of rolling banner content to understand and get those messages across of where you're sat to direct you in certain activities, certain roles. The majority of the way we use programmatic is for job applications being the call to action. The only exception of that is with the tech recruitment piece, where the call to action will be to join our talent pool. Once in the talent pool, we then start engaging with them on a quarterly basis, helping them understand what it is that Screwfix is up to from a tech point of view and what it is then they might want to come and work for us. Examples of some of the socials, so when we're using the imagery on places like Instagram, it's always with the primary imagery off the bat. We then move into our reportage imagery and the focus on the customer, always with the story presented, and this is the same with LinkedIn, trying to get across Alan's story and why he enjoys working for us. So in terms of some of the key messages I'd just like to dwell on at the end here, which is phase one, understanding the purpose and direction of consumer or the corporate brand. I realise that I've articulated a lot from the consumer brand because it's very relevant to Screwfix, but some of you in the room that may not have a consumer brand, you will still have a corporate brand or an investor brand, and can we have parallels that sit between that, or can we even influence that? Now, one of the fortunate things that we sort of fell into is we quite liked what marketing were up to and we wanted to replicate it. But can we interact more with our internal functions? Can we be friends with marketing? I mentioned about the customer segmentation and bits and pieces. It's really transparent. And to be honest, within Screwfix, I've even gone so far as the current employer brand team I've stole completely from marketing. And it's, there's wins there, there's ways for us to learn and collaborate together. Your employees will tell you your EVP. I mentioned this before, it is not on us to create the EVP from scratch. Let's spend some time with our business, understand what the USP is, why people want to work for us. Researching the candidate market, and our internal marketing functions can absolutely help with that. Identify key stakeholders to engage and partner. So one of the things that we did is we had a group of collaborators that we did that we put together before we even started this work. One of the challenging things about working in employer brand is that everyone internally has an opinion of what the company should be doing on employer brand. One of the opportunities is that everyone's got an opinion on what we should be doing in terms of employer brand. So how can we use that as an advantage? How can we take this passion of these opinionated people that love what they do and want to be part of the future? And this was really invaluable. We kept them up to date with what it is that we were doing at every stage of the process. Whenever we had decisions made, we involved them as part of that. So when it came to engaging some of the directors and the board members about what it is that we wanted to do, knowing it's a little bit different from what we've done before, it just really helped us kind of have that gravitas and when we've got that in our pocket to be part of that conversation. Planning the colleague journey, so understanding the touch points, and it doesn't just stop when we hire them. It needs to filter through in terms of other parts of the industry. Learning development teams, internal comms, these people need to be our friends and we can align with them on that. And I finish with the point of perfect is better than done, because within brand, a lot of our deadlines are self-imposed. When it comes to having a big external and an internal launch, there's only one opportunity to do that. So I'd always encourage to take a step back and take some time to reflect and make sure that you're happy and confident with the content before we move forward. And that's me. So I'm around all afternoon, so if anyone's got any questions or want to talk some bits around further, keep an eye out, we're happy to catch up.
Round of applause for Martin. Very, very interesting talk. And just a couple of questions, because I don't want to keep the audience between them and lunch. All of this seems like a fantastic project, but at a very low scale, if we can shrink it down, people maybe a one-person TA team, or maybe they're just like an operational role right now. Can they do anything to influence this forward? What's your advice to that type of person?
100%. No, it's a really good question. And what I'd say is, yes, look, I've articulated, so one of the questions I most get when I do similar things to this is, what was your budget? How much budget do I need? Which is, I'm going to give a political answer to that and divert away from the actual number, because it's all relevant to where we're at the moment. And I think the one thing to take away is authentic content. It's one of the most powerful things that we get the most feedback on as a company, is that Life at Screwfix hashtag that pulls through organic employee generated content. We have more comments on that piece than any other from candidates. We spent no money on that. All right, there's a little bit of tech in the background pulling that through, but you can do that through your social channels in terms of sharing that. And one of the things that I would encourage as well is we do have, not just as part of the brand refresh, a group of employer brand collaborators. So when we're doing people love being part of a group and love something different. So we meet with these collaborators once a month to talk about, this is what we're going after for the next month. Can you help us bring this to life? So there's lots of other ways that you can engage and start producing content without necessarily having that big budget. Although one thing I would like to add in terms of the budget piece is, I said you'll hear from lots of other presenters, 1.2, 1.3 million jobs out there. It'd be more important than ever for people to find purposeful work that they do. There's some strong points here for us to engage people to get budget in terms of this space. It's more important than ever before.